Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Three Knees Down. I hope everything is going okay for you guys, considering the climate we have with COVID going on. Hashtag COVID haircut. I wanted to kick off a new build series we have going on. If you're new to the channel, you probably haven't seen it. It's the CR250 Supermoto build that I had going on back in 2016, 2017. So maybe you want to check out those videos if you like Supermoto build. It was really short. Not much to it, but this one is going to be way more fleshed out. We're taking that Supermoto and we're turning it into a super single. The reason why we're doing this build is because since I moved to California, I couldn't get the CR250 plated for riding on the street. I didn't have all the parts to turn it back into a motocross bike, so instead it's going to be the super single now. So check out what we got going on so far. With the fairings mocked up on it. Yeah, I'm really excited for this build. I wasn't going to film the bike initially because I wasn't sure if I had the time or the budget, and with COVID going on, I wasn't sure if anything was going to really happen. But fast forward to now, a couple months later, the bike is set up. It's not quite finished, but we still have a lot to do to it. So yeah, I'm excited for this build. I hope you guys are too. And let's go back a couple months and show you what I did when I disassembled this bike. In order to do this build properly, I plan to disassemble the bike down to the frame for cleaning. This meant removing the forks, engine, and getting rid of every part that wasn't necessary anymore. Here's what's left over. With the frame stripped down, I could begin cleaning all the parts, nuts, and bolts. Since I didn't have much in the way of supplies, toothbrushes had to do, specifically for all of the tight crevices. While the small parts spent time in a wash, I went on to replace the swing arm and linkage bearings. Remember, this swing arm is from a 2001 CR250 as well as the linkage triangle. We did this swap in the Supermoto episode so we can run 25mm axle wheels in the rear. If you're going to do this swap on a first generation CR250 like mine, I highly recommend you do this mod. Here are the pivot works bearings. When installing, make sure the flat side or letter side is facing the outside of the bike. Press the bearings in. You may need to be creative with your sockets and bolts if you don't have access to a press or a puller. I had to modify my press, remove a bunch of things so that way I can get the swing arm to fit inside of the press space. You're probably going to have to do something similar if you have a Horror Freight press or something small like mine. And once you're done, grease the bearings, spacers, and press in the seals. Be pretty liberal with the grease here. The shock also gets a rebuild. I'm using a bullet which is that copper piece on top of the shaft, to slide the parts down so that way they're easy to install. Not shown is the rubber stopper that I also installed. Since the shock will be lowered, I needed a smaller stopper. In goes the seal. And I removed the bullet to put on the shim stack. I'm using a Racetech shim stack Gold Valve series with the Supermoto settings. I have to play with the shims for a bit to see what I like while I'm on the track. Pro tip, use a zip tie to keep your shims together when you uninstall and install them, as it makes it a whole lot easier for you. Alright, next up is installing the new bladder. The oil dripping out means that I have a perfect seal inside. There's no air being pushed in. Make sure you push the bladder all the way down past the circlip groove. Then you'll be able to install the circlip. And here's that circlip. Afterwards, reinstall the valve stem and fill it with air so that way it can get seated. Then work the shaft to remove all the air bubbles. Let's just speed this up a bit because it takes some time. Then top it off and push the seal all the way down. You're probably going to have to release some air from the bladder to get the seal to go down into the shaft of the shock body. You may want to use a tool here to push it down easily, but my fingers are pretty small, so I could get it down pretty well. Next, I install the Zeta lowering spacer. This is a 30mm spacer that will reduce the length at which the shock can rebound. That means the shock will be shorter than stock. This will make the bike lowered around 1 inch, which is perfect for race height. We don't want to have the supermoto or motocross height on this bike anymore. Now while you watch me struggle as I prepare the forks here, what I ended up doing for the front end is, instead of lowering the stock CR250 forks with some super singles do, I went for a GSXR front end. This is a GSXR 600 front end. The triple tree shaft and the head stem bearings on the 04 and 05 Gixxer 600 forks are the same as the CR250 1997. So as long as we swap the tubes, this means I can run a sport bike front end instead, which is already lowered and prepared for racing. I got 2 entire 05 front ends locally for around $400, so I decided to take the best parts from each of them and put them together. This meant new seals, new dust seals, and oil. I found that this spray can, a brand of sunscreen, is the perfect diameter to press the fork seals in. Everything looks good, so now I'm going to go and reassemble the forks. Sorry for the terrible lighting as it got pretty late in the day, but I wanted to finish this up. And the last step for all of this is to set the fork oil level to 120 millimeters. This is measured from the top of the fork to the top of the oil in the shock without the spring installed. 120 millimeters is just a starting point until I feel how it feels like on the track. Alright guys, that'll do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, like and subscribe. I know it's kind of cheesy, but it really helps support the channel and helps me to make videos for you guys to all watch. On the next episode, we're going to start putting everything together, mocking up the frame, checking out the geometry, and seeing what the fairings look like on top of the bike. So look forward to it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.